Okay, so today I want to talk you through what we learned when we went to Alex Hormozi's acquisition.com scaling workshop. So you have to qualify to be able to go. So really you need a business, I think that's done over 250k revenue, so it was quite low. The average size business in the room at the time did about 10 million revenue. So we were in there on the low end, with our chocolate factory having been like 2. And actually we weren't there for that. We were there after having done a year's preparation for our current maths tuition business. Just to go with, this is the model, this is the idea, we've got everything in place. Is there any blind spots that we have before we scale this? Or is this as good as it looks? That was the reason that we went. The first day was amazing. It was all about, they called it a VAM day. So I think VAM stood for value adding method. That's just a pretty name that Hormozi gave it, because he loves giving things names. Of essentially how to add value to a company if you're going to sell it, or if you're going to retain it and, you know, take money out against it or whatever. But this was the sheet that he was given when he first sold or was looking to sell Gym Launch and Prestige Labs and that as a package. So he went to an investor, and this investor, he didn't know how to go about valuing a business, how to sell a business. Went to an investor and he's like, these are the things that you get graded on, essentially, so that we can give your business evaluation and figure out what someone would pay for it. And now he uses it for all of his portfolio companies. He says there is some variation depending on market and a few other factors, but across, I think he said the 11 companies that they have sold or something like that, they're always within about half a multiplier. So how would you go about valuing a business, and why is this important? One, it's just good to know where you stand, but two, these are then markers that you can actually work towards. Because if you know what is going to increase the value of your business, this is what other people value, which will make you want it more too. So it was really fun. Before we dive into it, at the start of day one, or near enough, I think it was when Hormozi first came out on stage, he basically said, show of hands, who's here to build a business to sell it? So loads of people raised their hands up, and he was like, okay, who's here to build a business to keep for the rest of their life? And some people put their hands up, and he was like, awesome. For both of you, the process is exactly the same. And he said, like, you can think about it like selling a house. If you've ever sold a house, to make it more attractive to other buyers, you then go and do the renovations. You then make it interesting. Like, you might do the same with a car. You might clean it out. You might get the paintwork done, get all of the chips taken out, all this sort of stuff. And only at the point that it's ready that someone else would want to buy it, you then look at it and go, oh, I've got something quite nice here. And at that point, you might want to keep it. So the endeavor is the same. And so I definitely take away from that in that build a sellable asset, because the moment someone else wants to buy it is also the time that you want to keep it. So let's dive right in. What actually makes a business valuable, and how do you go about calculating it? So I'll put up on screen the spreadsheet we were given and our numbers from our test year of just Millie and I running it part-time to figure this thing out. And essentially, at the top of the chart is like business revenue, like top line business revenue. So revenue actually isn't taken into account for the valuation. Really, it's how much revenue you keep. So that's called your EBITDA, your earnings before interest, tax, amortizations, deductions, and annualizations, I think, and accruals, sorry. Anyway, essentially, that's your bottom line before your company gets corporation tax. So let's say it's just you selling a service, like it was for us last year, all of your revenue minus your cost, your expenses to fulfill it. That's it. That's your EBITDA. For a bigger business, it's after all of your operational expenses, your cost of goods, softwares, advertising, after absolutely everything, what you get left. So it's like the net profit of the business. There's four distinct categories, I think, of valuations and multipliers here. So you've got below $1 million EBITDA, essentially nothing, no multiplier. From 1 to 2.5 million, I think it's 2.5, anyway, the number, you'll see it. Then from 2.5 to 5 million-ish, I should check these numbers. The multiplier goes up to say 4, and then above 10 million, it's like 6, something like that. And this is all a multiplier on your EBITDA. So that's where you start with. How much, if your business isn't generating enough revenue, you won't generate enough EBITDA or money that's left over profit, and then it's just worth less. So this main focus here is why lots of companies are bought up around the 1 to 3 million a year profit margin, because if you take 4 or 5 of those companies and you roll them up together, you go and buy each of them and you put them together under one name and you get it working, by doing nothing else, you go from like a 2.5 multiplier to a 6. And so you can over 2-3x your money just by doing that. And I say just, it sounds really easy. It's probably not, never done it, but that's what happens. Okay, so I'll actually check the sheet before I carry on here to make sure I'm giving you the right information. Okay, next up are your value adders. So here you've got year-on-year growth, different variations of how much of a multiplier you get, but the more you grow year on year, the better it looks and the more you're going to be rewarded for that. You've then got revenue retention. So what percentage of your user base stays with you from year to year, longer than a year? The reason that's important is if no one ever leaves, every sale you make will continue to make you money forever. And so you have a compounding vehicle and you only ever have inputs coming in, and the business will become more valuable over time. Our business has a constraint here, a significant one that is difficult with all education models, in that you come in and you graduate. So our revenue retention is next to 0. It's not actually 0, we put 0 in this one because we didn't know. It's probably around 20-30%, but it's essentially 0. Okay, after that, you've got your EBITDA margin, i.e., what proportion of your total revenue do you actually get to keep as profit at the end? Now this one's split above or below 30%, and you get a multiplier for that. Below it, nothing. Above that, great. Because then you have a healthy business. And then the last one is LTV to CAC ratio. So this is the lifetime value of a customer ratio with the cost to acquire a customer. The higher you can get this metric, the more valuable each customer is to bring on. And so the more money you have to spend to acquire them. So essentially, you've got more marketing budget, you can scale faster, is essentially what this number means. Now, Hormozi has noticed through his portfolio businesses that above a 3-to-1 LTV to CAC, that's generally where businesses start to really succeed. And that was just a number that you kind of went, yeah, it's about 3-to-1. Where he has made his most significant wealth, and this genuinely dropped my jaw, he was getting 200-to-1 LTV to CAC. Just process that. This is a money-making machine. For every dollar, pound, whatever you put in, you get 200 out. Why wouldn't you play that lottery on repeat? And that's exactly what he did, and that's how he made Gym Launch and Prestige Labs, and how he made the biggest proportion of his wealth. I was just like, 200-to-1, that's insane. We did a great job last year where our LTV to CAC was 10-to-1, and then we had a great word of mouth, so we had 50% referrals, so our LTV to CAC was 20-to-1, which is wild. Like, that's great. This year, our LTV to CAC is closer to 3-to-1, which is really pushing our limits on profitability of the company, which is difficult. And that comes from our biggest constraint of replicating our sales process and expanding it out, teaching other people to do it, and then getting the same results as us. Okay, so that's all of the value adders. Okay, and then you go through and you take off all of the things which are risks to the business, and this will take away from how much people are willing to pay for it. The first and most common one, and there's nothing wrong with this at the start at all, actually it's required, is key man risk. I.e., if a specific person in the company are to leave, how much damage does that cause? So like if all of your sales are coming from one sales guy, he's a key man. If you are in charge of all of the operations and everything like that, and you haven't put someone else in there, that's a key man issue. The most classic one is an influencer or a personal brand. That's a key man risk, right? Nothing wrong with it, an amazing way to market, but you just get less payment for it because they need to change that out. And by changing that out, you will reduce the revenue of the company. The next one is single channel risk. And again, I'd strongly recommend starting any business. We'll start with this risk. And what that means is, how do you acquire customers? So for the chocolate factory, all of our customers were brought through affiliates, an affiliate network that sold almost entirely on Facebook. And so there was one day across the 2.5, 3 years we ran it, where Facebook went down for a day. And that day was the only day in the entire history of the business we collected zero money. And that's the risk of a single channel. Now, Hormozi, over these 2 days, absolutely nailed into us, have a single channel to $1 million a year or $1 million a month. He was like, you can do it. So just scale, scale, scale that one channel that's working. Don't expand, don't split your focus. But once you're at that point, you need a new channel because now it's just risky. The next one up is market risk. So is the market that your business in at risk of disappearing? Most classic example of this one that we can probably all relate to is like publication companies, whatever, you know what I mean? People publishing newspapers. Newspapers are shrinking like 25% every single year because of the internet and social media and everything like that. So not a great business to be in. Actually, the business that we're in, tutoring, will probably enter this category in the next few years because I don't see any other way of education going other than AI personal tutors. Like, results will be better. So, is your market at risk of collapse? That's another video why I think ours is pretty safe for a while, but nonetheless. And then the last one is data risk. So, do you have live feedback on all of the metrics of the important parts of the business? And what by that, what you're thinking are, in the sales process, it's lead cost, appointment booking rate, show rate, close rate, upsell rate, so that you can see what changes have impact which part of the system, and so that you can make key decisions faster. So lots of people think they need more time to make decisions, and what really they need is more information. And data is what allows you to make decisions faster. So examples within our business, we track for the tutors their percentage stay rate from round to round, because people could leave every 6 weeks. For the sales team, and also with the tutors, you know, like grade improvement, all that sort of stuff. For the sales team, it's their close rates, their upsell rates, all that sort of stuff. So really important. If you're in a Google Sheets empire, again, nothing wrong with it. It's just hard to make decisions as you scale, and to do data analytics, which is why if you've ever worked in any of the big four, like consultancy firms, they generally go into big businesses to do data analysis, to go, okay, this is where we can save you 20%. And that will just generally, when you make a saving like that, it goes straight to the bottom line, which is really, really big. So they're all the value detractors. So you've got the value adders minus the value detractors to give you your total multiple. Most businesses will get somewhere between 3 and 8, 3 to 10, depending on which revenues we're talking about, as a multiplier on your EBITDA. So if your EBITDA multiple isn't worth a great deal, like, yeah, would you sell your business for only 3 years worth of profits? Maybe that might be enough for you. If not, then maybe you want to fix a few things to increase that, but now you know what to fix, and you can work towards that to then actually get the sellout that you're looking for. And there you go. So this was quite interesting. We originally had a goal with this business to sell out for about 5 mil. And then after doing this workshop, we kind of found out and realized that businesses generally will only sell for about 1 or 20, and there's this big gap in the middle. because a company that has enough revenue to be valued at 20 mil has all of the risks associated with it and all of the poor value adders, so that there's high potential as to someone might buy it, but there's loads of risk involved, and so it's valued really low. And so you might have a 1 multiplier or even a half multiplier or less. But that same business, if you go in and you fix all of those problems and you actually make it a property that someone would want to buy, or an asset someone would want to buy, that's when you could really see some returns and, like, at a minimum go out for 20, say. So that's where our goal shifted as a 20 mil sellout, which is the valuation equivalent of 10 million profit, 10 million revenue, 3 million profit, and a 6-ish multiple. What we're aiming for. There you go. That's how you value a business if you have one and you're wondering about it. Straight from Hormozi himself. This was a long one. Hopefully it wasn't too waffly. There are my thoughts. Currently in Singapore today, heading out tonight to Doha. So, flying business. One of the great perks of having a business is you can do things like that. So yeah, that's us. Have a great day. Peace.